All right, it's time for our next presenter, and we could already see Kanan getting ready. He's with NMI, and they're gonna talk about modern trends in parking, frictionless payments, and value-added services. Can you hear me, Kanan? Are you in here?
I can hear you. Can you hear
There
me?
you are. Yes, loud and clear. Perfect.
And am I sharing the correct screen?
Yes,
Okay, so
everything's
you're seeing
going smooth.
my live
Yeah.
show. Okay, that's good. Right.
All right.
Should I give it a moment for people to join, or should we just crack straight in?
You can take it away. We have a room full of people, so and they're very eager to learn more about NMI. So the floor is yours.
Okay, excellent. Thanks
All
a lot.
right. Enjoy.
So hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today. My name is Kanan Keeney. I'm a product manager at NMI. As you can see on this slide, the presentation today is going to be about modern trends in parking that we have identified over the last year or so that seem kind of like the hot topics and typical trends that we're seeing now. A little bit about myself. I've been in payments for probably about 7 years. I've been with NMI for 5 of those years, and before that, I was with Spire Payments. So slowly becoming a veteran in this space, and hopefully I can wind up giving some insight that you guys find useful today. So our impression at NMI is that the future is definitely contactless. As you can see, what I've written here is that MasterCard reported that contactless payments have grown by 40% globally in the first quarter of this year, which is an incredible amount of growth. And when we're talking about the US market specifically, the amount of issuance of contactless cards is staggering. The amount of banks that are now issuing these cards, and we can steadily see the rise of these cards being used against our payment gateway, as well as digital wallets, things like Apple Pay and Google Pay, wearables, being used to facilitate a payment. Beyond this, this current situation is a perfect time to highlight this, is that the coronavirus has definitely switched on people to health and sanitation, and avoiding having to touch a PIN pad or insert a card or exchange cash is definitely at top of mind right now. So going through the payment process without actually having to physically touch somebody definitely seems very important to people right now. I also want to just highlight that when I say contactless, I don't mean purely just EMV contactless, so just contactless cards. I also mean ideas around QR code scanning, pre-booking, paying by app, so facilitating the payment on your own device rather than having to use somebody else's. So moving forward, some of the current trends in parking that I wanted to talk about today are contactless entry and exit, pre-booking and paying by an application on your phone, and then value-added services that are starting to be seen more and more in parking lots now. So let's get down into the weeds a little bit here about how an entry barrier might work in a kind of gated parking lot. So as I've written out here, so number one, a card holder may drive up in their car and present their contactless EMV, Visa, or MasterCard and beep that on the payment device that's there attached to the entrance barrier. Now, rather than a payment happening, instead, an offline token can be generated. Now, what this means is that we've translated that sensitive card data into a uniquely identifiable token, but that has no ability to be used for a payment. So a parking lot, operator can comfortably sit on these hashed tokens of card data without having to worry about having a breach that will result in card data being exposed. These offline generated tokens will wind up presenting the same value whenever a card is presented to that device. So as I said, if the card holder taps his card on entrance barrier 1 and then runs over to entrance barrier 6, that same offline token will be generated, and so it can act as an identifier. Moving on to point 3, the token is then stored in a central database. Now what that means is that the car park operator themselves, or it could be somebody like a SCADATA or Hub, or any of the well-known manufacturers and operators that work worldwide and that we work with. Basically, they store this as a record of this is when the card holder arrived. And now that they have this identifier, they can open the barrier and let somebody in. Alternatively, instead of doing this where it's all initiated by the card, this could also be done via license plate recognition. So if I were to register online earlier and hand over my license plate details and a payment method that's attached to that license plate number, then when a camera winds up seeing me drive up, they can open the entrance barrier knowing that I've pre-registered. Now the exit barrier is very much the same kind of process, except for critically, now you want to take a payment. So same kind of process at the start. Let's run through the card present kind of idea. Card holder presents their card to that device at the barrier. Number 2, that offline token is generated again, but this time the database will go, oh, when was the last time that I saw this token? Oh, I guess it was about 4 hours ago, which means that I need to charge them for 4 hours worth of parking. So that's number 3, that amount calculation. And now a normal payment process can take place of, well, they could pay by contactless card or phone or watch, or if they've done all this where it was linked to their license plate, it could be in the card that's in the cloud that they registered, and it would be a card not present transaction. And then the barrier opens because you know that you've gotten paid for the service that you provided. Now, going a little deeper into pre-booking and paying by an app, as I said, this can wind up being, coupled with license plate recognition. It can also be quite good for things like on-street parking, where instead of having to go up to a meter and put a bunch of quarters in it or swipe your card, instead you can just hand over your license plate number and the ID of whatever spot you're at, and pay off your car for a couple hours. Where this starts to get interesting is we've kind of identified some users that wind up using these services. And so through that, you can start to move into my next point around loyalty and value add. But first, to identify these users. So first one we've got is a frequent parker. So by that, I mean somebody that has that maybe lives in the suburbs, has an office in town, drives in to the office every day, Monday to Friday. And rather than having to mess around with going up to ticket machines every day or worrying about cash or anything like that, instead, they pre-register online and they don't have to worry about it. They know that their parking is kind of automatically handled. Another person that we wind up thinking about is a holiday maker. So somebody who might be driving to the airport or hiring a car to drive to a different city, things like this. And what gets interesting here is then you get pre-booking, but also through a third party. So somebody might book their parking at the same time as they're booking their flight or their hotel or their bus or whatever it is. And the last one that I wanted to talk about is the anxious traveler. So somebody who has a very important meeting on the other side of town, and they need to be sure that they can park when they want, where they want, without any shadow of a doubt. Now, as I said, now that we've identified these users, we can start to look at the value adds that we can provide to them. So a frequent parker, we can wind up thinking about loyalty programs, things like this. Well, we know that they're going to the same place every day, Monday to Friday. Maybe as a parking lot, we can do a collaboration with a local coffee shop and say, if you buy a coffee over here, we'll give you $2 off your parking on a Wednesday, these kind of things. Or they might want to keep it more in-house and say, okay, if you park here 15 times a month, then we'll give you a day free, something like this. For the holiday maker and the anxious traveler, I think they wind up having a different kind of value add. So both of these people want to make sure that they arrive at their destination on time. So that's pretty critical. You wind up thinking that, okay, getting pushed traffic updates or weather updates could be very useful value adds for people who are planning to get on a plane on the other end of this or having some life-changing meeting on the other end of their journey. So going a little bit more into other value-added services, electric vehicle charging in particular is something that we keep on hearing about. And it's not really a big surprise. You know, society is becoming more and more environmentally conscious. There's a bigger and bigger rise of electric vehicles being sold and purchased around the world. And the parking operators are now realizing, well, if somebody's going to leave their car there, wouldn't it be convenient if they could just plug in their car while it's in that space? They go to the mall or their job for a couple hours and then come out and the car is fully charged and the parking operator makes a markup of some kind. But then you think of other value adds. You know, some of them are a little bit more obvious than others. You think like valet parking or car washing. Now, when it comes to payment of this, where, you know, my focus would be, you get to think about, well, somebody could pre-book this, go, oh, I just love the valet service at that parking lot, so I want to use that. Or it could be a more spur of the moment idea. You're driving and your car gets filthy on the way for some reason. Hey, what a convenient time to get my car washed. And somebody could come up with a little MPOS device, right? So just a little handhold thing. Oh, cool. Okay, pay me now, $10, and I'll wash your car, or valet your car, or fast track it. The other ones I already mentioned earlier. So that was loyalty, traffic, and weather updates, which could be pushed out to somebody. So with all that said, I want to, you know, really encourage you guys to get in touch to learn more. You know, reach out to us at NMI with the details here. Feel free to contact me directly. And if I haven't yacked on too long, I'm more than happy to take some questions right now as well.
You did a wonderful job. Don't worry. Indeed, we don't have much time left, and I saw that Sagi with Red LPR is already ready to give it a go. But there's one interesting question that came in. Yeah, it's a bit of a glimpse into the future. I know it already exists, I believe, in Norway. But do you think that we'll see more entry and exit barriers removed as we move into more frictionless payment?
So yeah, I do think that's really interesting. Personally, from the feedback that I've gotten from parking operators, I think it's likely that we'll lose the entry barriers, maybe, but the exit barriers have a variety of good uses to them. You know, making sure that somebody's paid, also just being able to maintain traffic flow. It's the same as the reason why they have the barriers on the London Underground, for example. it's good in case of an emergency to keep people out. So
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
hard to say, but yeah, I think they'll stick around for a while now.
Yeah, we asked the same question during our physical event, our airport parking network event, to some airports. We were having a discussion about digitization, and yeah, one airport said it will never happen. Other airports said it was their dream situation. So we'll know soon enough, I think.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, we're out of time, but your contact details are on the screen, and we'll also share these with all attendees. If you have any questions for Kanan after this, please just send him a message. I think he's more than happy to answer them. Thanks so much for a great presentation, and we need to clear the stage for Sagi with Red LPR. Feel free to rejoin the session. Thanks so much. Take care.